Hi everyone, my name is Diane and I am a clinical exercise physiologist with True Fitness. So today's mini physical activity and health workshop will focus on resistance training for middle-aged and older adults. And this will be particularly important for people who are trying to start on this resistance training journey. So just an important piece of background information. John and I in True Fitness have been commissioned by Leash Sports Partnership to design and deliver a 12-week strength and fitness intervention for adults in leash aged 50 to 80 years. And this research study, fantastically, has been funded by the Sláintecare Integration Fund under grant agreement number 21. And if you'd like to hear more about the study design and what we're doing, I will present it at the end of this presentation. Just for now, to say that this mini workshop is part of a number of workshops that were created for the participants as part of this research. Okay, so we look at the impact of aging and physical inactivity on the size, strength, function, and health of your muscle, the type and amount of resistance training that you should do for optimal health, the numerous benefits of resistance training for you, and of course, we'll finish on some practical advice and resources that we can give you to help you on your journey. Okay, so firstly, what is resistance training? So people typically think of resistance training as lifting weights or using some type of resistance band or something like that. But it's important to know that resistance training, you can actually do an awful lot of it with your own body weight. And in fact, that's what we will focus on mostly for this workshop and for the practical videos that we share with you after. So for example, squats and lunges and some abdominal work like the plank you can see in the picture there. So they're all resistance exercises and very, very effective. And so one of the principles I want to talk to you about today is called the FIT principle, FITT. And we often use it to prescribe exercise. So I just want to show you what it is. So F stands for frequency in terms of how many times a week should you do a particular type of training. And in this case, resistance training should be done at least twice a week. So if you can do it 2 days a week, that's a really, really, really good start. Intensity is I, and that really talks about how hard it should be or the level of effort or difficulty that it should be. And the recommendation is moderate to vigorous. So for example, if I, on a scale of 1 to 10, ask you how you feel when you're training, 1 being very little effort and 10 feeling like it's absolute maximal effort, you should be doing your resistance training between 5 to 8, which means you know you're doing it, but you can sustain it and it's not causing you major uncomfort. So it should be of a moderate intensity. T stands for time, and your resistance training session should last around 30 minutes. And the reason for that is because you need to train all of the major muscle groups of the body. And to do that, you're looking at about 8 to 10 exercises in total. And for each exercise, you're asked to do it a minimum of 8 to 12 times. So by the time you do that, it does take 30 minutes. And we can support this workshop with an actual home-based video for you of squats and lunges and things like that to help you understand what a resistance training session is and just how much you can do without any equipment, just your own body weight. And the type then is what type of resistance training you're going to do. So if you are a Sláintecare participant with us, we of course have this built into your online training class with us. But as I mentioned, you can also do squats and lunges and things like that. And also activities of daily living. So for example, walking up and down stairs is a really good form of resistance training. And very importantly, something we call a sit to stand exercise. And what that is you start off sitting in the chair and you move from that position to standing up straight and then back again. So you're basically going sit to stand and then back to sit. And we count that as 1 repetition. And the reason why this is so important is because as we get older, this is a really good marker of how functional we are and how prone we are maybe to being frail or having a fall or things like that. So you should have enough leg strength to be able to sit to stand without having to use your arms to help you. Now, of course, you can use your arms to help you. So, for example, put your hands on the arms of a chair to help you up, or even on your thighs. But ideally, with a period of training, and as you get stronger, you should be able to have the leg strength to do that and do it very, very well. So even practicing sitting to standing during your day is a really, really good form of exercise and actually incredibly important for your health. That's something that I will talk about more because it's just so important. And if anyone is doing aqua aerobics or aqua training, the resistance that the water offers as you move through it is really, really good. And that's a good, nice way to start if you happen to be doing some, or happen to like water, we'll say. So there's lots of different things that you can do, and it's just really, really important to know that anything you do is better than nothing. So FITT stands for the frequency, intensity, time, and type, and that is what is recommended for you per week in terms of resistance training. Okay, so the question I would always ask myself is why? So why am I being recommended to do this amount of training? What's the benefit? Why should I do it? And I want to just talk to you really, really briefly today about aging or the effects of aging on your muscle. And just a couple of short points in the interest of time. So what happens as you age? Well, if we age and we don't help ourselves in terms of actually doing resistance training, inevitably what happens is we lose a certain amount of muscle per decade. So at least 1 to 2 kilos per decade after the age of 50, but it can be more depending on the person. And this is the process of aging, but it's absolutely exacerbated by physical inactivity. So if you're not doing your resistance training or any form of physical activity, the whole process accelerates. And so what happens is by the time you reach your 70s, you can end up with 50% of or less of the muscle mass you had when you were younger. And that causes major problems for frailty and falls and quality of life and independent living and all of the things that are so important to us as we age. So I just want to show you a couple of things. So these are actually MRI scans of muscle. So the first picture I'm showing you there is of a 40-year-old triathlete. Now, if just in terms of what is a triathlete, they're somebody who competes in events where they do running, cycling, and swimming. So this is a very, very well trained person. They're probably training 6 days a week, and they could be training twice a day. So I just want to show you a picture of nice, well trained muscle, basically. And in the center, the kind of white circle in the center is the the long bone in the thigh, okay? And what looks like steak around it basically is your muscle, so at the front and the back of the thigh, so the quads and the hamstrings and everything else in there. And the white bit on the outside, so here that you can see here, is your adipose tissue, okay, or your subcutaneous adipose tissue. It's basically your fat tissue. And we can tell that that's a really well trained person because the amount of fat that's there is low. The muscle mass and quality there is really, really good, and that will translate into that person being very strong and quite fit. And the bone quality, we just know from the level of training that they do is very good as well. So it's not brittle; it's quite strong. It's very, very strong. So this is a nice situation to be in. Now, what happens as we age if we're quite sedentary? So if we don't do much activity, it looks like this. Okay, so this is a 74-year-old sedentary man. So somebody who isn't active and hasn't been for a very long time. And the aging process in this case means is so if you have a look at the muscle there, the muscle is definitely atrophied. Okay, so it's smaller. You don't have as much of it obviously as we age, but the quality of it is not good. And in fact, you can see all of the white bits in or around the muscle as well, which is fat tissue which shouldn't be there. And to keep a long story short, this type of fat here causes problems in terms of it causes different signaling cascades for different conditions like cardiovascular disease and diabetes and things like that. Um, so quality of the muscle is poor. You can see the adipose tissue around the muscle here is quite extensive. Okay, so body composition won't be great in this case. And what I can tell you from that bone is it will be much, it'll be weak and brittle. Okay, so this person is not going to be strong. Their sit to stand will be poor. They're probably going to be quite frail. Their balance will probably not be good. They're probably at risk of falls, and fractures and breaks because the bone quality isn't good. So this is a situation where you're looking at, in your later years, probably being dependent on help, and all of these things that make a massive impact to how we function and how we feel as we age. So this, unfortunately, is the aging process, and it's absolutely accelerated with physical inactivity. But I just want to show you something. So this is a scan from a 70-year-old triathlete. So a very, very well-trained 70-year-old, and you can see the impact that training has on the quality of muscle in particular. But also it has the same impact on bone, and you can see, of course, that there's far less adipose. Um, so this person is strong, fit, independent, good quality of life, can do their activities of daily living, very likely is not suffering from a range of chronic conditions, and their quality of life is completely different. Now, this is a triathlete. I'm not trying to turn everyone into triathletes. What I'm trying to show is the impact of training, and really my hope for everyone that we're working with on Sláintecare and everyone I have ever worked with is that you can arrive into your 70s somewhere between here and here. So do as much as you can to counteract the effects of aging, but you don't need to be an athlete, okay? So anything better than this middle picture is fantastic. And any training that you do is going to bring you closer to this picture here. So that's the main message from today. You get a dose response relationship between physical activity and strength and health and everything else. So any type of physical activity, resistance training is better than none. Okay, right. So in this situation, we have unfavorable body composition. We've lost strength, power, the ability to perform any type of strenuous activity, the ability to perform our activities of daily living, like getting in and out of a chair, getting in and out of a car, doing our shopping, walking around. All of the stuff that we do all day becomes much more difficult in this situation. And functional activities like sitting to stand, which is really, really important, we're losing that ability. Definitely frailty, and this is sarcopenia, so that's the technical term for loss of muscle mass with aging. Okay, and really importantly, the baseline levels of strength and fitness that we have in our middle age predicts frailty and health in older years. And this is an age group that I really want to focus on, because we often focus on older adults, which is great, and we should absolutely. But in middle age, we are losing a huge amount of muscle mass and strength, and it's then that we really need to be training to preserve that, so that we don't come in contact with all of these issues like frailty, etc., as we get older. Okay, so really, really important for us to start training definitely in middle age, if not earlier. Okay, so the benefits of resistance training basically are that they counteract the effects of aging and physical inactivity. So they slow the physiology of aging, increases muscle size, strength, and power, increases muscle function, importantly increases bone density, so the thickness and strength of the bone as well. That's very much a consequence of resistance training. It increases glucose uptake in muscle. So what we've done is we pulled out all of the clinical conditions that exist in research, and we're trying to give the benefits in relation to those conditions, because there's just so many. We're just trying to zone in on some of them. So resistance training increases glucose uptake in muscle, meaning that it helps to lower your blood sugar, it improves your metabolic health, and it is really important to help prevent, treat, and manage type 2 diabetes if you have it or are at risk of it. For sure, because of the strength and everything else that you get, it improves your balance. It decreases your risk of falls, increases your quality of life, decreases depression and anxiety, and it increases your functional independence as we age. These are just the benefits I could fit on the slide. There are so much more. Okay, so it's a major predictor of health, independence, and quality of life in later years. So you can't go wrong with resistance training, and any bit you do, you'll benefit from. So we usually finish our mini health workshops with a bit of health homework, and that is write down how many minutes of resistance training you currently do per day for 1 week. So if you're training with us on Sláintecare, you can count each training session with us as 20 minutes, because the rest is made up of aerobic exercise, flexibility, and balance. Okay. Do you meet the recommendations for health? If you don't, are there any opportunities in your day or your week where you can increase the amount of resistance training that you do? Okay. So it's about assessing where you are at the moment and seeing where you can make changes. And some very simple tips we have are take the stairs instead of the lift. Obviously, if it's safe for you to do so. Okay, so if you have poor balance and if you're frail and have different injuries and things, it's not appropriate. But if it's appropriate, take the stairs instead of the lift. Try to aim for 20 squats every day. You can do them standing at the sink. You can do them any time of the day. Okay, so to increase your leg strength. Practice your sit to stand regardless of what age you are. Can you go from a sitting position to a standing position without using your arms to help you? If you can, brilliant. If you can't, that's something you definitely need to work on. So just make a conscious decision to do that one exercise a few times a day. We have a home-based circuit video that we would be very happy to share with you. We've shared it with our participants, and if you want it, you can contact us. It's completely free. And we also have a lovely beginners core and back strength video as well to help with strength training there. So if you'd like to avail of that, just think of all of the health benefits you will get from adding a little bit of resistance training into your week. Okay, so as I said, these are only little mini health workshops. We could spend hours on, as we've done before, on each of these topics, but we have provided our participants with additional practical resources, so home-based resistance training videos. If you're not part of our Sláintecare study but would like to avail of these free resources, please let us know and we would be delighted to send them out to you. They're appropriate for all levels and all abilities. That's the beauty in them. Please do contact us if you would like to avail of them. So my name is Diane. I'm a clinical exercise physiologist. John is the person who created most of the videos. He's our strength conditioning specialist. And our contact details, if you want them, are info@truefitness.ie, and we'd love to hear from you. So just because this is just a very, very mini workshop, I have recommended two papers here if you're interested to read more. One is from the American College of Sports Medicine, so the ACSM, and it's their position stand on exercise and physical activity for older adults. And it's a really nice paper. It takes you through how much aerobic resistance, balance, and flexibility you should do and why. So a really nice paper to have a read of if you're interested. And the second is probably a little more technical, but very, very good. And it's from the Journal of Strength Conditioning Research. And it's basically a review of the recommendations for resistance training for older adults. So might be more interest maybe to kind of health or strength conditioning, sports science professionals and so on, but just really good recommended reading if you're interested in this area. Okay, so finally, for anyone who's interested, so we are currently running a research study titled Prime Time for Middle-Aged and Older Adults, a strength and fitness program for adults aged 50 to 80 years in Laois. And we have recruited 80 participants. They're 50 to 80 years of age. Originally, we were supposed to run this on site, which we love to do, so we get to really know everyone, and there's obviously a lot of social interaction and so on. But of course, with COVID, and because of the age group of this group, and also all of the numerous clinical conditions and injuries and so on that exist, of course, they're of the most vulnerable in society at the moment. So we had to change our study design to move to online intervention, which, to be fair, is probably going to be the future of training interventions for this population for the immediate future anyway. So it's actually a really good opportunity to trial this. So we have participants of all clinical conditions, all abilities, visual impairments, you name it, everybody is in this program. It's an inclusive program, and that's what it was always intended. There's very little exclusion criteria here. We received ethical approval for the study from DCU, so we were delighted with that. And we worked very hard for this to be an online intervention. Okay, so we conducted our pre-program tests at the start of September, and in the interest of time, we ran a battery of tests in small groups, of course, and with all precautions taken to assess strength, fitness, balance, flexibility. For physical measurements, and then we did a number of questionnaires to look at mental health, quality of life, how active people are, and a range of other measures as well. And these, of course, were actually done on site because, of course, us as testers, we need to be able to assess these variables. But all precautions were taken in terms of COVID, and all procedures were approved by the DCU Ethics Committee. Okay, so from there we have moved on to our 12-week intervention. And so what the participants do is they train twice a week with us online. So they're all trained up on Zoom, and everyone is using that twice a week to train with us. Each training session is a combination of strength work, aerobic exercise, balance, and flexibility. Because what we're finding is, even for the people who are active, they mostly focus on aerobic exercise. But as we get older, we need all of the components of fitness. So we have all of them incorporated into each training session. So they do that twice a week with us, but they also do one mini workshop with us per week. And in those we pick a particular topic and we take them through the science behind it in a very, very practical way. And we also support these with take-home resources in the form of handouts or videos or whatever it is that suits that particular workshop. And of course, we monitor everyone weekly. We constantly call people, email people, and we do as much as we can in terms of social support as well, because that's really, really important part of training. So we at the end of each week then we email everyone their participant take home resources, so they're building up a big bank of physical activity and health resources that they can use moving forward. And the purpose of these mini workshops is to teach them everything they need to know that they'll be able to maintain these behaviors in the longer term. Okay. And of course, after week 12, we will be repeating the post-program tests. This is a research study, so we will be creating a research paper in January of 2021, and we're hoping to publish that in the Irish Medical Journal, so it'll be open access for anybody who's interested to take part. And obviously, this is important to say that we were commissioned by Laois Sports Partnership to do this particular research study, and it's funded by the Sláintecare Integration Fund under Grant Agreement 21.